Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Okay, that was dramatic.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. I don't know what you're talking about.
It beats Jason, who looks at me and goes, "Okay."
Shout out to Paisley. We love Paisley here on the show.
It's Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Start.
Yeah. Versus I now no longer after the introduction. I used to be the intro voice back in the day, and now it is no longer me doing it. So it's a weird day.
Yeah.
It's like my child has grown up and is going off to college. I'm an empty nester now. I have no more intros to do.
Well, I want to, before we get to what you want to talk about, and I'll just pretty much leave when that happens.
Ouch.
Ouch. I'm kidding. The joke. Because it happened, we told you yesterday it would probably be 5 years. We told you yesterday that you'd play everybody home and away for 5 years. But it didn't come out officially until a half hour after we were done yesterday. So we'll just quickly review that. There are certain teams that Penn State will play only twice. The vast majority they'll play 3 times in this 5-year span. And the reason they put out 5 is they're trying to get everybody playing home and away. I mean, Penn State finally plays at Nebraska in 2028. Now, Nebraska's been in the conference since 2011. They were Penn State's original, when they went leaders, legends, designated crossover game.
Okay.
So they played here in 11, out there in 12, back here in 13. Then, they added Maryland and Rutgers, and they changed the divisions. And Penn State went out there in 20.
Yeah, I'll say, when was the last time you were out there, Steve?
20. In an empty stadium.
Mm-hmm. So it'll be 8 years since you had to travel to Nebraska.
For football.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I go to Nebraska all the time for basketball. But that needs, at least you're going to get into this cycle here, which is way better.
Mm-hmm.
But they've only played in Nebraska in conference play. This will only be the 3rd time they've gone out there.
Crazy.
Okay, that makes no sense.
That math checks out for me, Steve.
Yeah. So here we go. The home games, and of course, what people will be doing is, okay, which game is going to be the whiteout game?
We were discussing this ahead of time before the show, and we think we have a good guess.
Well,
oh, you're smiling a little. You got a little smirk on. So next year's opponents, 2024.
Here we go.
Illinois,
Maryland, Ohio State, UCLA, and Washington come here. Now, the original schedule at USC coming here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they'll still play USC, but it's going to be at the Coliseum. So Illinois, Maryland, Ohio State, UCLA, Washington, all coming here. So you're going to see 2 of the new teams right out of the gate here. Then Penn State will go to the Bank to play Minnesota, Ross-Ade to play Purdue, the Coliseum to play USC, and Camp Randall to play Wisconsin. Remember, the even years are always the years where Penn State has 5 home games in the conference. All right, so now we get to 25, odd year. 4 games here. Indiana, Nebraska, Northwestern, Oregon. So in the first 2 years of the schedule, you'll see right out of the gate UCLA, Washington, Oregon here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Indiana, Nebraska, Northwestern, Oregon in 25. On the road at Kinnick to play Iowa. Now, in this sequence, they only play Iowa twice, by the way. I believe they only play Indiana twice in this sequence. No, they play them 3 times. They play Iowa twice.
Yeah, once home or once away in 25 and once home in 28.
So they'll go to Kinnick to play Iowa, Spartan Stadium to play Michigan State, the Shoe to play Ohio State. They go to Piscataway to play Rutgers. They go to the Rose Bowl to play UCLA. Okay. So it's back-to-back West Coast trips to Los Angeles in 24 and 25. 26, 5 home games, Minnesota, Purdue, Rutgers, there's the USC game, and Wisconsin. Penn State will hit the road, go to College Park to play Maryland, Big House to play Michigan. Michigan's only on the schedule twice.
Yeah.
Northwestern at what we think might be Ryan Field. We don't know what they want to do at the stadium yet.
We'll see.
And then they'll make the trip to Washington to play at Husky Stadium on the shore of the lake. I believe when Husky Stadium debuted, Penn State was the first ever opponent there. So that will be in 26. In 27, okay, again, we're going back to an odd year. Because of that, there are 4 home games. Maryland, Michigan, Michigan State, and Washington comes here. Notice 3 meetings with Washington, 2 here, 1 out there. They will hit the road to play Illinois at Memorial Stadium, Indiana at Memorial Stadium, Oregon, not at Memorial Stadium, but at Autzen, Purdue at Ross-Ade, and Wisconsin at Camp Randall. And then in 28, Penn State will have Indiana here, Iowa here, Ohio State's here, Oregon's here, UCLA is here.
That's a big year for home games.
Yes, it is. They'll hit the road to play Michigan State at Spartan Stadium. Then they go to Memorial Stadium to play in Lincoln. They go to Piscataway to play Rutgers and back to the Coliseum to play USC.
28's a crazy, we just said it, it's a crazy year for the home games. Iowa, Ohio State, Oregon, UCLA all are usually top 25 teams or strong teams to have in contention. We're not going to count Indiana in here.
But Penn State will make, in the 5 years, 1 trip to the West Coast each year. Okay? They'll go to USC in 24. They'll go to UCLA in 25. They will go to Washington in 26. They will go to Oregon in 27 and go back to USC in 28. So they'll make 1 West Coast trip every year.
It's a good cycle in terms of each year, just one, make it easy for everybody.
Right. And Penn State's got a lot of West Coast teams coming in here. USC and UCLA come in here. UCLA and Washington are coming here twice. USC's coming here once.
Oregon's coming here twice.
And Oregon's coming here twice. So the West Coast teams, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon, right? They're all coming here twice. USC's coming here once. When they do the next 5-year cycle, expect USC to come here twice in that 5-year cycle. And and the other ones probably they'll flip it. They should, at least, of course, the Big Ten could be like 28 teams at that point.
At that point, who knows? The Big Ten might not exist anymore. It might just be 17,000 teams all in one big conference.
The Big Ten will exist, I can guarantee you. It will exist.
We can't just get a 100-team round robin?
I can guarantee you that 2 conferences will make it through the rain.
What might those be, Steve?
The SEC and the Big Ten.
So not the Mountain West or anything else? Pac-12?
Oh, others will be. No, Pac-12. But those will be the 2 that no matter what happens, you notice how in realignment, nobody leaves the SEC or the Big Ten.
That's so interesting.
They all go there. They flock.
I think they might have some green in their eyes, Steve. The green's there, and they just can't see anymore.
The SEC has the passion, incredible fan bases, and growing markets because of the migration south. And growing markets, we all know that, let's face it, Florida's a growing market population-wise. Atlanta obviously is, Birmingham, now you have added in Texas. We all know that Dallas and Houston and so forth are growing markets. New Orleans, Baton Rouge. The Big Ten has all the major population centers and really passionate, deep-seated fans. They have that in almost every market.
You have one of the biggest markets, one of the top 2 considered broadcasting-wise, number 2, I believe, in Los Angeles.
Well,
not bad.
You have New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Washington, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Detroit, and Chicago, which has already been mentioned.
Yeah.
Now we go to Milwaukee, Madison, Minneapolis.
Lincoln's not terrible.
Lincoln, Des Moines, right? Los Angeles, heard that was big.
Yeah.
Right? Portland, in Seattle.
Not bad.
Exactly who wants to leave that?
Nobody, Steve. Nobody wants to leave that one.
No. They both conferences have great markets, great setup, and great passion with fans. And not only that, something the Big Ten really also has. They have alumni all over the country.
Yeah. They have alumni over the country and in all the professional sports everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point now adding Oregon, USC, UCLA, Washington, you've got even more now.
Yeah.
You have a ridiculous number of people everywhere. I mean, technically, with these additions, you now have Phil Knight. I think you've got Nike.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
Well, I think what the chairman of is a Penn Stater. So, yeah.
It's just all of it. It's adding up now. And this is going to be a very fun schedule for years to come. I know West Coast teams will be racking up those air miles. I hope they get some rewards for that.
Well, like I said, they have to make one West Coast trip a year. Now, the basketball part, I don't know when they're going to come out with that part. They obviously don't have to do it now. They just put out the schedule for this particular year. They will in the spring. Will put out the home and aways. This is what I expect. Right. So let's just go with what I expect. I expect it to stay at 20 games. I expect there to be 3 home and aways. And I expect there to be 14 one plays. In the 14 one plays, I think they'll do everything they can with everybody has to go out to the coast to have USC and UCLA be a road trip for somebody. Right? And then have Oregon and Washington have their one plays be at your place. Then the next year of the cycle, okay, USC and UCLA will come to your place. You then have to do the weekend trip going out to Portland and to Seattle.
It's,
or, Eugene, which is about an hour south of Portland.
It's a pretty logical, straightforward process of just road tripping it. Because if you make teams fly out to Washington, fly back, fly to Oregon, fly back,
right,
it doesn't make sense.
No, you're trying to do everything you can. In other words, for them, say UCLA comes east, and USC both. They come east. Okay, well, one night one's playing Rutgers, the other one's playing Maryland. Then they flip it. The next night one's playing Rutgers, the other one's playing Maryland. Right? I think they need to have that kind of thought process because in the Big Ten, if you're talking about 14 one plays, okay, now you're trying to say, okay, how am I going to do this? Do I cut it down where I've got 20 games? Make that 5 road trips, all right, to take up 10 games. 5 road trips for 10 games. That way it'll keep the travel as minimal as possible, right? Same thing for the teams that go out there. Now, you're going to have to be judicious as to how you do the home and aways. All right. There's probably going to be at some point a rotation home and away. You're going to get one of them. But I think initially that's not going to happen. You may get home and aways with Nebraska may get a home and away with one of them. Iowa may get a home and away with one of them. Minnesota may get a home and away with one of them. And, I don't know, pick Wisconsin. Let's go out as far west as possible just initially to keep the Furor down as to you could work it out right away where your home and aways out of the gate are among the 4 out there. Right? You could do that out of the gate, right? And then go from there. But at some point you're going to have to venture away from that. It can't always be that way. And there is no flex protect like the football schedule had. I mean, Iowa was able to go out and schedule 1/3 of its conference schedule every year.
I was going to say, they're going to schedule their entire season's going to be set up perfectly the exact same way every season.
I mean, I swear if they told that you had unlimited, Iowa would have gone for none.
I would have been like, we're just going to stay here every game. We're not going to have any away games because that's how Iowa wants it to be. Yeah.
Well, there's 12 flex protect games. Iowa has 25% of them.
Insanity. It doesn't make sense.
Now, I know they don't want us to say that because, but I'm sorry. I don't apologize for being able to read and do math.
Yeah, the numbers check out, Steve. The numbers check out on what you've been saying.
It's like when a Flex Protect thing came out, I knew you were allowed, by the way, to protect 3.
Mm-hmm. And
both sides have to say yes to it. All right? It's not like, hey, we're going to protect 3, and the other side goes, well, I don't want to be. No. It's got to be everybody says yes. All right, so obviously Nebraska, Iowa, and Minnesota and Nebraska all said, yes, this is great. Mm-hmm. Fabulous. And I looked at it and went, oh, brother. If I had to handpick anybody that would do it, it would be
freaking Iowa, man. Iowa.
Now it makes sense regionally. Mm-hmm. Those are the 3 closest games. Those are rivals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Wisconsin-Iowa rivalry goes back decades. The Iowa-Minnesota rivalry goes back decades. And to the credit of Iowa and Nebraska, they've done a great job of taking that Friday and after Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and turning that into a rivalry game every year.
Mm-hmm.
It may be recent, but they've done a great job of turning it into a rivalry game. So it is legit that they've done that. You notice they didn't do that with Minnesota and Michigan and the Little Brown Jug.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it's fine. It's first of all, the Little Brown Jug. I don't even think Michigan's moved it off the trophy case for decades.
No, it's been sitting there for a while.
It's like, great, fabulous.
It's got dust on it.
It's got cobwebs.
Mm-hmm.
So, do we have to bring it with us? No, I said, it takes up a spot in the plane.
Mm-hmm. No, we don't have a seat for it. Sorry, it'll stay home today.
Yeah. So all the, Illinois Northwestern makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State, Michigan makes total sense. Michigan State makes total sense. It's not like the Flex Protect games that Iowa picked didn't make sense. They do. But I'm wondering what it did to the flexibility of the schedule. Because you knew that Oregon and Washington justifiably should stay as a designated game.
And USC, UCLA.
And which was already in the original 11.
Mm-hmm.
USC and UCLA was already in the original 11. You knew when Oregon and Washington came in, it would make it 12. My question was whether they look at Iowa and go, hey, you're allowed 1, man.
Mm-hmm.
You're allowed 2. You're going to have to drop 1.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't.
3.
But they didn't, though, and that's why I think they did the 5-year schedule, because you notice you want to play everybody home and away. That's the way a conference should be. And you notice that's where they finally put Nebraska in for a road trip for Penn State, was the last year of it. Okay. I keep using the SEC example, but it's worth just pounding into the turf. Texas A&M is in its 13th season of being in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia has never played a football game there.
Really?
No. Georgia has never played a football game at Kyle Field.
I didn't know that.
They've been the SEC schedules in such a way are like, none of it makes sense. Okay? For one thing, they're only playing 8 conference games.
Mm-hmm.
So you lose some flexibility there. Because you're playing in a conference where you have 6 right out of the gate, you only have 2 crossover games.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Georgia just played Auburn, right, as one of its crossover games. And Georgia plays Florida. Okay? That's an Eastern Division game. Okay? But they play, Tennessee plays Alabama every year as a crossover game. Third Saturday in October is always Tennessee, Alabama, but they aren't in the same division.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 7. That only gives you the flexibility for 1.
The SEC
and I believe,
make sense.
And I believe the Auburn-Georgia game, I think, might be a designated crossover game. So that gives you 1.
Not great. Not great.
But, again, where's the segment on game day about it? Oh, we don't want to do that. We cover the SEC. Why don't you just honestly tell everybody, look, guess what? Okay, Texas A&M has never hosted Georgia. Really? And you think with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma, that's going to open the door for that to happen? Again, this is their 13th season in.
Yeah.
Now, Texas A&M has played a game in at
Georgia.
Sanford Stadium. They have.
And game. Keyword.
Right. And this is the way the SEC, I mean, for a long time, Barrett Bryant, Alabama, they weren't playing Georgia all that often.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been a strange conference the way they've done things. And what's really interesting about it is everybody lets them get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part that baffles me. All right? Why does everybody let them get away with almost anything they do down there?
Because the SEC, Steve.
But I'm saying, hey, what kind of, okay, where's the journalistic integrity? Okay? Where it's a fact. This is not one of those, I'm speculating here, it's a hot take. No, it's a fact. Right? And look at the history of scheduling in the SEC. It's just bizarre. Right? Now, yeah, I think it's great Georgia plays Florida every year. That's great. Great tradition. Let's, go down to Jacksonville, have yourself a good time.
Tennessee, Alabama.
Right.
Makes sense.
Third Saturday and right, all the time. That's that's great. You're going to bring in Texas, Oklahoma. They play each other, and it's great that Texas is now going to go back to playing Texas A&M. That'll be great. But when I see some of this stuff, that's why I have said for years with the Big Ten, because I didn't like the scheduling models they put out for years, because I wanted everybody playing everybody, and I've said it over and over and over again. To me, that is a conference. You play everybody. It may take a while to do it.
Yeah. Every 5 years, for instance.
Okay? When they came out with the divisions, so let's go East-West, okay? I don't got to go in legends and leaders. I'm not going to go
ridiculous
into that, okay? Where I sat back and went, what? When they went to the divisions, I said, look, get everybody on the schedule in a 5-year span. I said, you play 3 teams in the West, and in a 2-year span, you play them home and away. Okay. For example, Penn State played Northwestern here last year, went there this year. All right.
Logical.
Okay. You do that back-to-back years. Then the next year, years 3 and 4, you take the other, and this is something I've talked about repeatedly. You take the next 3 teams, and you play them home and away. Again, over a 2-year span. Okay. And then, in the 5th year, the one team you haven't played yet, you get them and then go back to the beginning point with 2 others that you played in the first year. What's so complicated about that? And the Big Ten didn't do that. They did this, well, you're going to play Iowa most of the time. You're going to play Iowa most of the time. Why does Penn State have to play Iowa most of the time? It's not like Penn State hasn't had success with Iowa. Penn State has had a lot of success with Iowa. But I remember, Kirk Ferentz actually said to Jack, this was at when Bad Rad passed away, and Radakovich. Kirk went to the viewing, and Jack was there, and he said, let me ask you something. He says, are we in the same division? He's right. They play every year. Nebraska has come here, 3 times? Penn State's been out there twice since they got in the conference. Okay, that makes no sense. It's okay to
travel a little bit.
But my point is, you play everybody. I know we're getting to the point where there are fewer players, student athletes, players, whatever you want to call them, by taking the 5 years. I get that. You have transfers after 3 years, maybe going to the NFL. Got it. You have to go some guys that stay there 5 years. Well, guess what? You should at least have the thought process that in 5 years you're going to go to every stadium and everybody's going to come here and play you. That to me is part of the college experience.
Yeah.
Right? You're already getting the money from the networks. So that part's done. Right? That part's done. But it's okay to have the experience of, hey, you know what? I played at the Coliseum in Los Angeles. Hey, I played at the Big House. Hey, I played at Ohio State. I played at Nebraska. Right? Yeah. I played where Dick Butkus played. Who just passed away yesterday. I played where Dick Butkus played at Illinois.
No one wants to say they played in Piscataway, though. Let's be honest here.
I didn't say every pathway was paved with roses. I did not say that.
Oh, Jersey. Sorry, I had to get a shot into Jersey somewhere.
You play them. They play them now. In this one, I think they play them 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, that's a conference. That's one thing about basketball. No matter what, you do see every team.
Mm-hmm.
You see everybody. Every year, you see everybody. That's why I talked about 20 games, 3 home and aways, and 14 one plays, because that, to me, you see everybody. You should not go through and have somebody rotate off a basketball schedule when you've got 20 openings.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I can't picture them doing that. I think they'll stick with that. Now, you may move the tournament around, which I'm all for. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for that. Indianapolis is not a good host, is a great host for the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just give it plain as day. Washington did a good job with it, but a lot of people in the Big Ten didn't like it. It's off the beaten path. It's out of the way. It's like, I remember a couple of guys coming up to me down in D.C., and they go, "Oh man, we had to fly in here and da-da-da." I looked at him, I said, "Excuse me." I said, "This is the first time in my career I drove."
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at me and said, "Oh yeah." Yeah, I said, I fly every year.
Mm-hmm.
I think, okay. New York was tremendous and everybody loved it.
Mm-hmm.
But you had to make a sacrifice to do it because they had to move the seat, because the Big East has the contract at Madison Square Garden. It still has a few years to run.
And the ACC is in the Barclays Center,
right,
I believe.
But they wanted to play in the Garden.
Mm-hmm.
Jim wanted the Garden. He did not want the Barclays Center.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted Madison Square Garden. Everybody loved it.
Oh, yeah.
But you had to jerry-rig the season and move the tournament up 1 week to do it. He had to compress the schedule. So that was the issue with it. So as great as it was, it's going to be a while till it goes back.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the fact you've got to move too many moving parts. This year, and Chicago does a really nice job with it.
Mm-hmm.
Love the United Center. And it's great for the crowds. Easy drive for a lot of people out there. It's an easy drive for Wisconsin, Northwestern, Illinois, Indiana, Purdue. It's really easy, even for Iowa, Wisconsin. It's easy for them to drive to it. That's, you love central locations like that. Okay, now Minneapolis is going to be a little further out.
Mm-hmm.
Great city. They know how to host big events. They've hosted Super Bowls, Final Fours.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to handle a big event in Minneapolis.
They have a real arena as well.
And they've had the women's Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
They had it just there a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And Target Center's fine. I've been to the Target Center before, and they'll do a great job with it. But now with these teams coming in, I think you have to consider. I don't know if you have to say, let's go to Los Angeles and play at Crypto.com, a.k.a. the Staples Center.
Or you could play at the Intuit Center, the new one that's coming in next year, the Clippers. There's no two options.
Which is going to be out by SoFi Stadium.
Yeah.
In Inglewood. I saw when I went out there, you saw where they were going to put it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think instead of that, right? I'm just throwing out, just spitballing here.
It's here.
Las Vegas.
Ooh. If there is an NBA team brought to Las Vegas soon, I think someone's going to jump on that and say, we're having a tournament in Vegas.
Well, I think you can do it now. I mean, you already have the Vegas Golden Knights playing there because the T-Mobile Arena.
Golden Knights,
right?
the Aces, the Raiders.
What I've seen, it's beautiful.
Yeah, Allegiant Stadium, the Raider Stadium is gigantic.
Right, but you don't want. But you notice they haven't put the Big Ten tournament in the dome, except when I'll admit that they did play in Lucas Oil during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. But that was understandable.
That was. They wanted to spread everybody out, and okay, so I got that. But they have not played other than that.
Mm-hmm.
The Big Ten tournament has not been played in a dome. They still want to play it in a
basketball
15
arena.
to 21,000 seat arena. All right, and I think all these arenas have been 19 to 22,000. They're all 19 to 22,000 seat arenas. I think Indianapolis might be 18. But T-Mobile, they can get 20 plus thousand in there, 21,000. And let's face it, right? You're going to draw people because they're going to go, I don't know if my team's any good, but it's Las Vegas. Let's give it a shot.
The Michelob Ultra Arena, where the Vegas Aces play, is a 12,000 seater arena.
No, they would let they'll go.
Yeah.
It's got to be T-Mobile or nothing.
That's fair. It's understandable.
It's an 18 school conference.
It's gigantic. Yeah.
So you have to have a place that can accommodate as many fans as possible without being in a dome.
At some point, I think Portland would be a fun one. Portland would be quite fun.
Portland. Look, Key Arena has been redone. What's it called? Climate Pledge Arena.
Yeah, Climate Pledge Arena, I believe.
Where the Kraken play. That's been redone. The Moda Center in Portland, I've been told, is just incredible. And of course, the Crypto.com, the arena is right behind the JW Marriott where we stayed for the Rose Bowl the last couple times. So, it's not like I've never seen it.
Yeah. And then you're getting a brand new one in Inglewood. Like, you're going to have some nice places you can play. They're adding in some very nice locations.
Right. And
they're giving them the option of a Vegas, or maybe you can somehow swing to San Francisco and go play
Chase Center.
I
think Vegas is the one that has got to be the leader in the clubhouse if they decide to go west, because it's just
Vegas.
Too intriguing for everybody. When they see it, they go, "Oh, well, there's nothing to do there."
I would put a lot of money that. I know it's been hinted at that an NBA team would move out there.
Great segue. You put a lot of money in Las Vegas?
Yes. I think as soon as an NBA team is announced to be going to Vegas to join the Aces and join the Golden Knights and the Raiders, because it's going to happen. It feels inevitable.
Well, the
NBA
NBA team's going to play in T-Mobile. They're not going to play where the Aces are.
But my point is, when an NBA team comes out there, I think immediately an NCAA tournament Final Four happes there. I think
The NCAA has finally taken the wraps off the Las Vegas. Well, we're not going to go there. We're not going to go there. And they would say, like, you're not going to go there. Now they are going there, right? And that's them more than they're instead of dipping the toe in the water, they're putting the full foot in. But you already have the West Coast Conference already plays there at Orleans Arena, and I've done a couple games there. Orleans Arena. The Pac-12 has been playing at T-Mobile. Somebody else is playing at Thomas and Mack. Mandalay Bay has an arena.
You've got space.
I think the Big West is play out there. The West Coast Conference, the Pac-12, the Mountain West. They've all gone into Las Vegas for years with conference tournaments. I think there were 5 conference tournaments there last year. The NCAA is saying, we're going to play there now. Okay. Really such great forward thinkers. Good for you. But the NBA team, and I would say the leader in the clubhouse to get the NBA team, and this is just I'm throwing a dart, but I think it's a dart worthy of discussion, would be the Fenway Sports Group.
Yeah.
And that is, of course, John Henry. They own the Penguins.
And
they have the Red Sox, Liverpool, and a minority stakeholder in the Fenway Sports Group is LeBron James.
Who?
Yes.
And he's hinted at over the past couple of days at the different the media days and stuff the Lakers have had. Father Time is sitting in the room with him now in terms of his career. And so the assumption is he's got this year. His contract ends in, I believe, 25. Yeah. So he's got this year, and then hopefully, if Bronny is healthy and is able to play in all of this at USC, he can get drafted, and then 25 is his last year, and then he's done, or 24 is his last year into 25. Sure. And then at that point, he's out, and then the NBA expands by 2 teams, adds in Vegas, adds in, crossing my fingers for Seattle.
Seattle deserves it.
It's been hammered for years now, but Seattle needs a team.
Seattle deserves it. Seattle was already a great NBA market to begin with. I don't know what other markets are really available right now. Is Nashville available? Possible. Is Louisville available? Possible.
I have a thought here, because we've seen expansion happen with teams taking back names in different sports. Could Vancouver be another one. Add a second Canada team.
They tried it and it didn't work. They were only there a couple of years.
Yeah.
In fact, the first head coach of Vancouver was Brian Hill, who was an assistant coach here at Penn State for 3 years. And then eventually, this is after his Orlando experience.
But I look at what Toronto is now, where basketball in Canada is huge. The Canadian national team is ridiculously great. And Vancouver, if you had a Seattle added in, a Vancouver could come in after that. You'd give yourself a rival automatically.
Well,
you'd give yourself them, Portland.
If they go big, let's just say the NBA goes big.
4 teams.
They've stayed status quo. Okay. Do you go 6 teams to 36? And follow me on this one.
Okay. I'm listening.
Vegas, Seattle. Okay. London, Paris, Rome, Frankfurt, or Berlin.
Oh.
Or London, Paris, Madrid, Rome, or I think it's pretty popular in Germany.
Mm-hmm. It's
Berlin, okay. Berlin, Frankfurt, one or the other. Okay. Paris. Right. And you set it up where, okay, now we're going to go on a 4-game road trip. We're going to Europe.
If there's one sport,
okay, we're just throwing it out there.
Mm-hmm. If there's one sport that logistically it would make sense to do in terms of that expansion-y style, I think NBA is the one it could happen with. And the NBA has expanded quite well in terms of they just played in, I believe, Abu Dhabi is where the Wolves just played. I forget who it was. So Mavericks, I think. So they're going everywhere. And of course, now you see with the World Cup in 2024 or the Olympics 2024, players are committing everywhere, left, right, and center. Joel Embiid is now an American.
Well,
so
there's a pattern that happens with that.
Yeah, it's every cycle of group of people.
Well, here's the pattern. The United States did not fare well in Athens in 2004. And LeBron was on that team, by the way. Allen Iverson was the older player. They had Carmelo Anthony, LeBron. Larry Brown was the coach. He was a great coach. Well, Krzyzewski takes over in 2008. And guess who finally said, I will play? Which to me, the second I had said beforehand they needed this player to play. And then about a month after I talked about it, he committed to doing it.
Would it be number 24 by chance?
Kobe Bryant. And the U.S. went out and they just cleaned everybody's clocks. Right? Because the United States didn't look good in 2004. Well, now you've had a world championship where the United States struggled. Finished, what, 4th?
They finished 4th. They lost to Canada.
So you notice right out of the gate, as soon as everybody said, well, what about the Olympics? LeBron James, I'd like to play. Oh, Steph Curry, I'd like to play. Joel Embiid, I'd like to play. Right? Because they feel like the U.S. got backhanded.
My favorite was Kevin.
Yeah, go ahead.
My favorite was Kevin Durant just being like, yeah, I'm playing. Just was like, yeah, I'm playing in 2024. And that's it. And then Booker was like, yeah, I'll be there too. Yeah. And just everyone's like, we'll be there. And I know we're getting hypothetical. We're discussing NBA and all this funness. Firstly, I think the World Cup is going to be, or the Olympics is going to be competitive because now other teams are actually good. Sure. Other countries are good now. So it's not going to be 2008 where the U.S. just...
That's where the Dream Team came in. The Dream Team's job was to go in there and get the world excited about basketball.
Yeah.
And guess what? Everybody thought, well, nobody's going to watch this. They're just going to blow everybody out. Well, they did blow everybody out. And guess what? They were the stars of the Olympics.
And now,
okay, look, we got Jordan, we got Bird, we got Magic.
And now you've got stars. I mean, what? It was Slovakia or Serbia. Serbia came second, and they didn't have their best player, Nikola Jokic.
Yeah.
He wasn't there, and they came second this time around.
Right.
Imagine when they add him, and their point guard was hurt. Like, they're going to be good. And then you've got this team who could rock up with a lineup, realistically, of at center, Joel Embiid, power forward, Kevin Durant, small forward, LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Devin Booker. That could be a starting 5. I think they'd put up 1 billion points.
Good.
Like, it's very dream teamy, where it's like now, like all these players committing.
I still laugh when people say, oh, we shouldn't be sending our pros. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's in other words, you just want us to just go out there. Everybody else can do it, but we can't do it. I said, the heck with it. Take them and run them out of the gym.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. You look at, like...
Run them out of the gym.
Well, that's the thing I look at with Canada. Canada sent most of their guys. A few guys did not go. Jamal Murray did not go.
No.
Andrew Wiggins did not go. Those are the two big ones.
Sure.
So now they have them. Canada looked real good. Dylan Brooks is coming into this NBA season on fire and wanting to laugh at everybody because he dropped 30-something on the U.S. and played defense like lights out against the USA. So he's got a point to prove this year. Yeah. If everybody's healthy, it's going to be a very fun 2024 summer watching that. Yeah. And then it wouldn't surprise me if something like that happens where the NBA is like, we've played games in France, we've played games in London, now we're moving a team here. So if they do 6...
I'm just saying... Just file it away that if the NBA will be the first one to expand into Europe, but they're not going to do it with 1 or 2. They could do as many as 4 because of the travel.
I was going to say, because that's the big issue, is that traveling for teams would be tough, and both ways, not just Europeans coming here, but us going there, because you don't want to travel for one game.
That's right.
And then come back. It's just ridiculous. Right. What's going to be an MLB series? You go there for 3 games and then come back? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, make them their own division.
Make 4-team divisions everywhere, or maybe even have 5 teams.
You'd have to have 9 divisions if you did that.
Yeah. But maybe you make it a 5-team thing, and you figured the math won't work there. But maybe you do something like that, where you add enough teams so you can kind of offset everywhere, give them their own division, what have you. Even though people forget divisions exist in the NBA, I forget they do.
Yeah,
they don't matter.
It's odd the way they do it. But that's just something to file away. Now, I know you wanted to talk about the 2030 World Cup.
Speaking of world events,
in 1930, Uruguay hosted the first World Cup. In 2030, 100 years later, Uruguay won't even be on the map.
They will be. They will be to some extent. So
are they actually going to have some matches? So because you told me the other day they weren't.
That was what was believed, and I was wrong. I know, me wrong.
I said right away Uruguay should be a part of it. It's 100 years.
Well, what is happening is the 23rd World Cup. It was announced it's going to be Spain, Portugal, Morocco as the 3 hosts. So automatically 2 continents, which is a little bit crazy, but logistically, some sense at least. But they're getting crazy now. The first 3 games, of course, 48 teams. There's going to be an opening night in Argentina, in Paraguay, and in Uruguay. Each country will host an opening match the same time or the same day. So the first 3 matches will be Paraguay against whoever, Argentina against whoever, Uruguay against whoever, and then the next 3 will be Spain, Portugal, Morocco hosting. And that's where the tournament's going to be played from there on out. None of that makes sense to me in terms of you're playing on... I know you want to get to this, but
this is one of the most corrupt organizations ever.
Really, FIFA corrupt? I don't know what you're talking about, Steve. I look at this and I just think that I get wanting to have Uruguay as part of it. These 3 countries tried to host it together. Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay came second in voting to Spain, Portugal, Morocco. It would have made a lot of sense to have those 3 be the hosts together. They're close together, closer than Spain, Portugal, Morocco are. There's a literal sea between the 2 of the countries and the other one. It's all money. I know it comes down to money, but I look at it as the World Cup and events like this or the Olympics are so much better when it's in just one place. Because that's the whole point, is you can travel around to different places and see them. It's so much fun. Like, the U.S. is going to be insane because it's the first time where you're traveling like a giant country. Even at least Russia, it was pretty much in the same region.
A lot of snow,
but the same region there. In the U.S., you've got games happening in, I believe, Seattle, and then also New York and Miami. Like, you're going to a lot of places in the U.S. It's going to take a full plane flight to get to.
Yeah.
Now you've got to fly out of a country into another country over a sea. It's... I know they're corrupt. I know I shouldn't be surprised by this, but it's getting a little bit extreme now.
Portugal and Spain border each other.
But now you're flying to Morocco.
Yes.
But if you want to go to the opening night and then go to Spain, Portugal, Morocco, you need to fly from Argentina or Paraguay to there. And I'm guessing there's not many direct flights from Paraguay to Morocco. So probably Paraguay to Argentina, Argentina to Morocco, maybe Morocco to Portugal then. Like, it's just adding up.
I think Alaska Airlines flies between two of them.
That tracks in my head, Steve.
Just kidding. No?
Mm-mm.
America West doesn't exist anymore? No.
No, sadly not.
Eastern Airlines gone?
It's getting a bit extreme now. I get 48 countries, you can do it mathematically. This is a lot. This is a lot. Like, are they just going to host, are these teams going to play one game in these 3 countries and then fly over, have a new camp over in Europe or Africa?
They're just doing it so they can get a game in Uruguay and say, look, see, we held to tradition. Like, you know what?
Then you should have selected them in the first place.
I agree with you. But you know what? A lot of people don't bid. A lot of cities don't bid anymore on things. So let's give you a couple of examples. I talked about the 2015 Women's World Cup, and Abby Wambach was complaining about not playing on grass, and I understand that because the men play. I mean, they're going to have to, they're going to have to bring in either trays of grass or whatever to play at MetLife Stadium and at Jerry World and everything. SoFi, so they're going to have to do it. And they didn't do that for the Women's World Cup, and she has a point. But they had to pull her aside and tell her that they're the only ones that bid. Like, let's not bite the hand that feeds us here. The Beijing Olympics, the Winter Olympics, 2022. Everyone thought that Oslo, Norway would get it. Early on, they pulled out. It was too rich for them. And so it came down to Kazakhstan and Beijing, and the vote was 44-40. So it wasn't like a runaway, but Kazakhstan was the only one that bid. Okay. When it came to the Paris, Los Angeles thing, they were the 2 bidders for the Olympic Games, and they said, look, because they have a problem here. Hey, how about Paris takes it in 24, Los Angeles takes it in 28. They're like, okay. Right? That's how they eliminated the problem. You notice Brisbane, they were the only ones that really bid. So they already got the 32 Olympics. Now, I think the 2030 Winter Olympics are not done yet. That's the one they don't have yet. But this is what's happening. I remember when Boston was thought to be the one that was going to be the U.S. leader to get the Olympics. I remember 2016, Chicago went after it. Was it 16 or 10? They went after it in 12 to get the 16 Olympics, which ended up in Rio. And Chicago finished 4th, by the way. They finished 4th. President Obama made a big presentation on behalf of the U.S. They still finished 4th. But when Boston went after the U.S. bid, people in Boston were like, what are we doing here? It's a 2.5 to 3 week track meet. And I know there are other sports, but that was... So we're going to build a velodrome. Now, what's it going to do when we're done?
That's the issue.
And, of course, where's Boston? Well, Boston's up against the water, which means everything is either north, west, or south. To the east, there's no place to put anybody. So you were going to have traffic, which is bad on a Boston day to begin with, and you're going to clog that city up. And it's not just the 2.5 weeks that they're there. They're there longer than that. You have to prep the city.
There's a week and a half prior, and a week and a half after.
Olympic Stadium and so forth. Well, a group got together and said, we have to stop this. Now, this is just them going after the American bid, all right? Boston spent, the Olympic, not the city of Boston, the Olympic organizers spent millions on the bid. We had on the show the guy that led the opposition group, and they won. And the voters were like, we're not doing this. This is insane. You want to know how much money they spent? Opposition?
How much?
$30,000. That was it. It didn't take much to persuade people. Yeah, they didn't want the security concerns. They didn't want the traffic concerns. They didn't want the stadium overrun concerns. What do you do with the Olympic Stadium? The Patriots are going to play there. They've already got Gillette. Okay, the Red Sox are going to play there. So what are you going to do with that? Do what South Korea did? South Korea built an Olympic stadium, the Winter Olympics in 2018, and guess what they did a month later? Leveled it. Right? And they said they just felt it was a waste of money and a lot of aggravation. That's why you've got a lot of cities not bidding for it. They can't afford it. You're telling me New York can afford to have the Olympics right now? New York right now has other problems they have to deal with, and and the Olympics happen to be not one of them. They don't have the money to bid for it.
The only city you could probably have it would be Los Angeles at this point. Like realistically, only so many places can have it. Currently, the bidding,
but Los Angeles has it because they bid ahead of time. Could Los Angeles realistically host it now? I was just there. No, they could not bid for it now. They've got a financial crisis in Los Angeles. Okay, they have a homeless crisis in Los Angeles. They've got a lot of problems they have to deal with, where they've got to allocate money to other areas that they don't have to bid on the Olympic Games.
In terms of people who are stakeholders and have posted interest in the 2030 Winter Olympics, currently it is Stockholm in Sweden, Salt Lake City in the U.S., and then the Alps in France are the three. It's Provence, Alpes, Côte d'Azur. My French isn't great.
I would guess it would be Chamonix and Grenoble.
Basically. So the Rhone Alps region. So those are the three parties that have expressed heavy interest, and Switzerland has also said we would enjoy hosting as well. So that is kind of where that is at as of this second in time. Apparently Kazakhstan has also been like, we'd love to have it again.
Kazakhstan's got all this oil money behind them. That's why they keep bidding for everything, and they keep losing.
Qatar got the World Cup, and that's the thing people forget is after an event is done, what happens to those places? The 2014 Brazil had the Olympics or the World Cup, and then in 2016 had the Olympics. What happened to those stadiums? A lot of them are dilapidated now because they have no use for them. The big stadium in Brazil, like their main place, the one Pele built, it literally has cars sitting in the middle of it because there's nowhere else to put the cars. Right. And so let's put them in the stadium.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
See, that's the difference when the World Cup comes to this country. You already have the stadium infrastructure in place.
Or when it goes to Russia, they already have the stadiums built. Right. They have to just add on to them.
Right.
It makes it a lot easier for stuff like that.
I mean, London did well with it. They had no problem with the Olympic Games. None. They did a great job with it in 12.
The Euros happened in France, and they had all the stadiums built already, and some teams got extra money to rebuild their stadiums. So it's in countries like that where it's a World Cup, where it's literally just we need soccer stadiums. It's really easy.
Yeah.
It's really simple for them. But in cases like with this, it's not. Or the 2024 Paris Olympics for basketball.
Yeah.
The main arena they were going to host the finals in. I don't know if you heard about this. The French national team has played games there, and they've practiced there. And over the summer, it was announced that this would be a place they'd be hosting the Olympics. And Rudy Gobert, Nick Batum, and NBA players were like, we can't play there. The ceiling is too low. And so they had to move it to somewhere else in France to play the games. And they'd figure that out and had to build a newer ceiling. Like, that is a realistic issue some places have, is they just don't have the facilities for it.
Right, exactly. And that's the other part. You have to spend, like I mentioned Boston. Well, they'd have to build an Olympic stadium. Because you have to put it, no, you've got Gillette Stadium. Gillette Stadium doesn't have a track in it. So you have to build an Olympic stadium. You'd have to build a velodrome. There's all these facilities you have to build.
You know how much the World Cup cost in 2022? $220 billion.
Yeah, but that was Qatar.
But still, and
they built all those stadiums. And we do not know yet how many people, and I say this is not facetious. We have no idea how many people died building those stadiums.
The fact that we have to say that is
they had
a problem.
Deaths. I watched HBO Real Sports, which is a shame it's going away. Brian Gumbel and the crew did a great journalistic job over and over again. I watched a piece that they did on this. I'm going to go back maybe 3 years. So it was 2021, or 2 years, 2021. And And I'm watching it in my hotel room, like going, you got to be kidding me. And of course, goodness gracious, if you're critical of it, you're just the scourge of the. It's like, look at it, like, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, but guess what? Hey, maybe you should be more concerned about the people dying instead of about your PR image all the time and trying to bully people. Sorry. Stop trying to bully people. Why don't you do something positive about it? No, sorry. Bullying is easier. And people who tried to bring up anything negative about the place got bullied.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, you just keep punching a bully. That's what you do. Because guess what? You know what bullies don't have? Ideas.
There you go.
They don't. Bullies really don't have ideas. When they're punched back, they have no ideas.
Mm-mm. Thank you for humoring me on discussing the World Cup today. It was nice.
I think there's a lot to it, more than just because of the business arrangement of it. FIFA has had many, many problems over the years where people have it's just kind of like, okay, who got kickbacks on that? You're asking, and you see things come up. Like, I understand why Russia got it in 2018. I don't understand how Qatar got it in 2022, except for the money part of it. Right? It's like soccer and live golf with Saudi Arabia. Like, okay, money talks.
Yeah, it does talk. And before we wrap up real quick, just before the show happened, the Bears confirmed they traded Chase Claypool, the Dolphins. So the Bears have had a whirlwind 24 hours, I guess, of winning a game of football convincingly, quote unquote.
They look good. No, I watched it.
Yeah, 40-20. DJ Moore, 200 plus yards, pretty good. And they just traded away whatever you want to call him in their locker room. Apparently he was a real problem. Chase Claypool, who of course got benched as a healthy scratch. They've been trying to trade him away. They traded him and they traded Chase Claypool and a 7th for a 6th rounder from the Dolphins. So that is what the deal is. Now Chase Claypool gets added to the ridiculous talent already on the Dolphins wide receiver group.
Well, if you want to know why Joey Porter Jr. is a Pittsburgh Steeler, that's the pick they got from the Bears for Chase Claypool.
Yep.
The day they made the trade, I'm sitting here. I said, they gave up a 2nd round pick. I looked, I said, they gave up a 2nd round pick? I said, how about a 6th or a 7th? I said, this guy's... I said, I might give up a 2nd round pick for Devontae Adams. He said, but not this guy.
It's just...
It made no sense. It made no sense.
Steve, nothing will ever make sense in this world. That's what it comes down to.
And I'm from the common sense school, and I just sit there and go, okay, that makes no sense.
I am from the illogical school of craziness and thoughts of psychoticness all the time.
The Tez Walker thing kind of threw you off.
That Tez Walker as well. Tez Walker's...
You've been thrown off. I mean,
yeah. And guess who he's coming back to play this week?
That's my point.
Syracuse.
Right? That's why they made the ruling. They made the ruling because they knew it would hurt Syracuse.
And we just lost to Clemson too, and I am not over that. I'm hurting, Steve. My Saints aren't good. The Yankees aren't in the playoffs. It's just, everything is just, it's not going well.
There's a guy I work with. I'll go by. I said, who are the Yankees pitching tonight? He goes, yeah. I said, I'm just asking. I said, it's a $279 million. So who are they going to pitch tonight?
We are pitching it's called pitching a wedge, Steve. We're pitching a wedge. As many NBA players like to say, we'll see you in Cancun. That is where they love to travel during the offseason. I'm guessing baseball players probably don't disagree with that. But of course, thanks for tuning into Sports Talk with Steve Jones. We have a little outro as well.
Oh, do we really?
We have an outro. We have
really cool?
We have a few more things we'll get into next week, but we have an outro, Steve.
Oh, I can't wait to hear it.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports Talk with Steve Jones.